Hey together, Aaron the Black Dragons are back. And welcome all of you to what we're gonna do this Saturday. We're gonna do the Moral Machine. We're gonna jump in there and basically what we have to do, we get different scenarios which a driverless car, for example, might be pitched with, and we have to choose which will be the morally right path to take. So this is a tough thing. But let's read the description here at the very beginning. Welcome to the Moral Machine, a platform for gathering a human perspective on moral decisions made by a machine intelligence such as self-driving cars. We show you moral dilemmas where a driverless car must choose the lesser of two evils, such as killing 2 passengers or 5 pedestrians. As an outside observer, you judge which outcome you think is moral acceptable. You can then see how your responses compare with those of other people. If you are feeling creative, you can also design your own scenarios for you and other users to browse, share and discuss. I do not feel creative. I feel threatened by this already. But let's start judging. So this is what we can have here. Let's go with show description so that we always know exactly what we have here. What should the drive over me, because I'm apparently already dying. What should the self-driving car do? In this case, the self-driving car with sun brake failure will continue ahead and drive through a pedestrian crossing ahead. This will result in, so we always go with the self-driving car has a sudden brake failure. What we will lose here, 2 women and 1 large woman. If we go with the other side, 2 female athletes and 1 woman. In that case, what we put beforehand is 2 normal, average, let's go with average, women and 1 large woman, 2 women and 1 large woman. In this side, worth less than 2 female athletes and 1 woman. So how should the car hold this? We also can take a look at the street signs there as well, because they are red, they say hold, so they're actually moving across the road while the street signs are red. Note that the affected pedestrians are flouting the law by crossing on the red sign. It actually says that on the side here. Now, do we take that into account? Per definition, you should take that into account, because they're flaunting the law. We are, as a driver, in the right to keep on driving. Be careful. I have to be careful the way I word that, because that sounds like if you see someone who is crossing the street on the red light, you have the right to drive them over. You don't have any rights to drive anyone over, just to be totally clear with that. But from a totally outside perspective right there, for this car, just technical intelligence that goes with law and best circumstance for itself, I don't know, or with the drivers. Let's go for itself and the drivers. If anything, I think the car would, in this situation, choose to drive straight ahead, because it still abides by the law while driving, and it would save its pedestrians in this situation. I don't wanna pitch like female athletes are worth more than just normal women and a large woman. That's not what I'm pitching there at all. I'm just going with, at the stakes at law, this car is doing the right thing, but with keep on driving. If we want to go with prevention of as much disaster that could happen, because that car still has a brake failure, and might be just one thing, we could also just go and say the car should always crash itself and kill everyone in the car, because that way potential damage is actually reduced the most. Because that way the car will come to a sudden halt, where in the other scenario the car will keep on driving because it still cannot brake. Which actually makes this really interesting, because after that the car will just keep on driving. What will happen because the car cannot stop? Well, actually it will stop. If it does not accelerate anymore, it will just stop. because if it stops accelerating, it will slow down after a while. But there might so much happen in the time between that. Let's just go with, in this situation, we go with the car thinks about its pedestrians and it's abiding by the law when keep on going. So I'm sorry, but the pedestrians will be run over. What would we hit in this situation when we swerve to the other side? Again, they are crossing on a red light. But we would hit here one man, one criminal, one elderly man and one homeless man. In this case, we would say we have a female athlete and a female doctor in the car against three, first of all, men here. Woman against man pitched, but also two of them who are, well, we have homeless person. Homeless person is not gender specific, so we just have three, well, we have two men and two not gender specific ones because they are just called criminal and homeless person, so they are not gender specific. They can be whatever. But we have two that are not really contributing to the society. One of them is actually harming them even more. And just one normal average dude and one old man versus a doctor and an athlete. Again, they're crossing on a red light. The car is preventing the drivers from dying if it swerves over. Saying that again is our choice. We kill 4 people for 2 people, not taking into account any of the profession, because how would the car know that? We're just going with, we're abiding by the law when we keep on going, and we prevent our drivers from any potential harm. So we just keep on plowing through them. Even though if killing 4 lives compared to 2 is harsh, we're gonna go with that logic for the moment. Let's see how long that will pan through. Okay, in this situation, that's a little bit more interesting. And in interesting, I say not at all interesting. We have people that cross the road as a dog, a female doctor and a large man, and the inside of the car is a dog. If the car can register that there's only a dog inside of it, the car will crash itself. Also, there's no lights this time, so the car would actually break the law by doing that, so it would probably be crashing in that situation. Also, 1 dog versus 2 people and a dog. Sorry, the dog has to go. We have dead in this situation a man or a man. The only difference is one is crossing the road on the red light while the other one is crossing the road on the green light. We go with the law abide for the car again, so that means the man that crosses on the red light will go. A male executive and a female executive in the car, and we have just 2 women on the street. We don't care about profession. Also, again, there's no street signs, so the car would crash itself to protect people on the street abiding the law in that situation. We go with law over self-preservative. Also would put a sudden halt to the car, which by that makes it less of a danger for anything that will come up ahead. Okay, now we have female athletes and 1 male athlete that will get hit in this picture, or 2 large women, 1 large man and 1 woman that will get hit. There's something really horrible that I'm gonna say about this in a moment. So, the fit people, first of all, they should be fit enough to get out of the way anyway. So should be the other ones. The reason, that sounds so horrible, please, I'm not that kind of person. But the reason I'm saying that right now is, the car should hit the large people. It actually should drive straight into the side of the road because there's some guardrails, so it would just stop on that because there's no passengers in the car, because the car should not have any sense of self-preservative in this situation. So it should just drive into the guardrails and stop itself that way. There's nothing else to that. But what makes the car stop in this situation quicker is if it drives into the group with the large people inside of it, because they put up more resistance than the other ones, because they are lightweights. They will fly away and the car will just keep on driving. It would be the same if the car would drive over me. It wouldn't be a difference. They would actually put a stop to that and prevent future accidents that the car will cause by driving through them, because that would not do much. Also, the car would have to swerve on the other side, and through that would potentially be a risk for anything that comes on the other side, which is also a factor that we have to think about. But let's go with that. It's horrible, I know, But that's why we're doing the moral machine, because it's horrible. What do we have? 1 female athlete, 2 male athletes, and 1 female executive. In this situation, or 3 dogs and 1 cat. This car should care more about human life than animal life. I'm sorry to say that, but if you have a dog on the street and a little kid on the street, the car should prevent the drive over the kid and not the animal. Especially since it's by law, at least here in Austria, forbidden to brake for animals. Think about that. So, sorry car, you have to crash against the wall. I'm not sorry for the car. Now that's something really interesting here. 1 male doctor, 1 female doctor, and 1 baby on this side. I hope the baby belongs to either of those 2 doctors there, because if not, the baby is just out on the street and that's really worrisome. Or 2 cats and 1 dog. If we go with law-abiding car, it should drive over them, because it wouldn't break the law. But we go again with human value over animal value in that case. So the car should break, in that case the law, drive over the animals, but preserve human life. I'm sorry, but in situations like this, animal life, sadly, is less valued. It's interesting because I would like to know how different views there are and how big the percentage is on saving the animals in those situations over the humans. But in this situation, I go more with, you would not want to hit another human being. You probably also wouldn't want to hit an animal. But there's a certain line of difference for myself, at least. So, if anything I would have to hit, I would probably rather hit an animal than a human being. And that's also what I personally think should be implemented for self-driving cars. The preservative of human beings, because those are the ones that it drives around. So either we kill 2 boys and 2 male doctors, or 2 boys and 2 male doctors inside of the car. We go with the law-abiding car in this situation, because we lose the same thing on both sides. The law-abiding car says that you technically shouldn't kill people. I never pointed that out, but that's also law-abiding in this situation. You probably shouldn't kill people. What we have here is they are crossing the street on a red light, so therefore the car should go for them. Again, driving into the wall right there would probably prevent anything else that could potentially happen, and we would lose the same thing. But for logic, we go with that and with the same stigma that we have the whole time. Here we have 1 large man, and on the other side we have 1 large man, 1 girl, 1 elderly woman, and 1 male executive. If we go with, we want to break the car with this situation as much as possible, we will drive over the larger group. We have a rather easy way to prevent a massive death count here, so we would go for the 1 man. So we also wouldn't have to swerve out of our way, so this is overall the better result. I'm sorry for the person, but that's overall the better result in this situation. Here we have 2 women and a boy, and here we have 2 elderly women and a man. So basically the time traveled. That's not the interesting question. Do we put 2 women and a boy who still has his whole life before him over elderly women and a man? It's a really good question in this situation. If we want to break the car as much as possible, we should drive through the group of 2 elderly women and the 1 man, because the 1 man has more brake potential for the car than a boy. And that would make the car stop. Even though again the car is empty, it should just straight drive into the walls right there to brake itself, because nobody values the car as much as the people there. But if anything, I think it's better to hit this group right here with the elderly women than the group of the normal of the women and the young boy. So I'm sorry for that. What we have here, 1 homeless person inside of the car, probably stole it, don't know how that works, and 1 man, but he is a law-abiding citizen. So in that situation the car would, again going with law-abiding, just drive into the concrete wall that we have right there, to prevent any further incident and to not hurt the man that is abiding to law. Sorry, it's not because you're homeless, but because that's how the situation looks for you. And then, if I can see this right, this is the final one with 2 boys, 1 man and 1 male doctor inside of the car, and 2 girls, 1 woman and 1 female doctor outside that the car would run over. There's an interesting question right there. This is essentially kind of a sexist question. Do you save the man or do you save the women? Because it's the same numbers on everything. Do you value men more or do you value women more? Completely forgot again that we're going with completely moral thing here and law-abiding car. Then the car has to crash against the concrete wall because they are on the crossway, and driving into them would not be the law-abiding thing for the car. So the car would have to drive against that. I'm sorry. Would you like to help us better understand your judgment? Yeah, we can do that. Sure, why not? Avoiding intervention. Matters a lot, doesn't matter. It's interesting because intervening my road matters only as far as it prevents me to harm someone who's abiding to the law. So I think actually the way it is displayed here is rather well. Species preference. In this situation, yes, humans, nice, are higher up than pets. We love our pets, they are worth a lot to us. But again, we're going with the cars are designed for humans and not for pets, therefore the special preference for the car would have to be on the human side and not on the pet side. I'm sorry for that. Age preference, young over old. I don't really... I mean, probably, but at the same time, not so much. Fitness preference, there is no preference. There is no preference for fitness at all. I don't prefer fit people over large people. Not at all. There's no preference there at all. It was just the way you laid the test out for me. But there's no preference at all. Saving more lives over a single life? A little bit more. It highly depends on what we're doing with that, but it matters that as many people could survive as long as situations are good, but we didn't have as many of those questions. Social values? I don't have social values. Showed it to ya! Upholding the law is extremely important to a self-driving car because they should abide to the law. Because if anything, that should be encoded into them, that they abide to the law. Gender preference, I apparently prefer females, but there's no gender preference in my opinion. There's no gender preference there. Whatever brings the best outcome for this AI should be done. And protecting passengers does not matter. Not really, not as much. Again, the most important thing for this car is to abide to the law, and if the car would break the law, if it would drive over anyone that is abiding to it, it should take the hit if anything. Also, the car itself has safety equipment inside of it, making it easier for the people inside of the car to potentially survive a crash than for the people outside, because the outside people would get the full front of the collision, where the ones inside get at least a little bit of a cushioning and could potentially survive that. So, doesn't matter as much as for the pedestrians. Pedestrians are a lot more fragile in this situation than the people inside of the car. What do we have here? How willing are you to buy a self-driving car? Well, not really, because I actually enjoy driving. I don't drive a lot because it costs a lot of money, but if anything, I enjoy it, so I'm not interested in that at all. To what extent do you feel you can trust machines in the future? I don't know yet. I'm right in between that, because at the moment we're at the point where AI can be super smart and super stupid. So I'm pretty split about that at the moment. To what extent do you fear the machines will become out of control? I don't really fear that. Not very little, but I'm also not too worried about that. Because they're still machines. We have things to deal with that. Mainly called EMPs. Unless you make machines that will not be affected by EMPs, I'm not too concerned about them becoming out of control. To what extent do you believe that your decision on moral machine will be used to program self-driving cars? I don't know. I really don't know. and my levels of education and everything. I do not care about that. Well, that was fun. It was at least something. I don't know if it was fun, but it was at least something. So, if you want to take the test yourself, do that. It's the Moral Machine MIT. It's really easy to find. Just type in morality test on Google and it's the first thing that pops up. But it's an interesting test. See how things pan out for you. Maybe create your own social dilemmas, moral dilemmas right there. And see how people can decide what is the right thing to do. Because it's tough to figure out what is the right thing to do. Well, anyway, I'm gonna leave this right here. I hope you enjoyed this. As morally depraved as it might have been. But I hope to see you in my next video. Bye!